welcome to this day. It is February 5th, and we have another mild to warm week coming up for you, and I'll tell you all about the weather in just a moment. On our show today, Steve Parsons is here, and he is with Third Mutual. He's going to talk about several things. One of them is all about cul-de-sac and building captains, so we'll talk about that. Landscaping, a few other things as well. Tony Rackauckas is here. He is the current district attorney for Orange County. He is also running once again for that office. So we're going to talk about, among other things, the race that's coming up, but also we're going to talk about human trafficking and a few other things as well. Now we're going to bring you a segment from Breastlink as well. As far as meetings go today, the only one is Third's M&C meeting. That's at 1 o'clock today, and it's meeting in the boardroom. Now, the weather, pretty much, folks, what we had last week. I think overall temperatures will be down about 3 to 5 degrees this week. However, it's still above normal by probably anywhere from 7 to 10 degrees. A little bit of that morning marine layer is going to be coming in and out. There wasn't too much this morning, but I think overnight we'll get some of that into tomorrow. Then as things warm up on Wednesday and Thursday, it should be pretty clear even in the mornings. And then as we get to the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to be probably in the mid to upper 70s, maybe a little bit more cloud cover in the mornings and evenings, but that's going to be about it. So yes, sunny and mild. That's it the entire week. And again, there is no rain in sight. This is just a huge high pressure system that is in our area. When I say huge, it is really covering the state and really even up there in Washington, they're not getting much rain at all. So the center of the high kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. That's why sometimes we're getting some of the clouds or marine layer in. But other than that, it's going to remain the same. And what's happening with that high pressure system that is really the center of it is off the west coast. As it spins clockwise as they do, the low pressure system, which spins counterclockwise coming down from Canada, that's why in the Midwest and East, it's bringing in such extreme cold temperatures over there. Now let's look around the county today and elsewhere. You can see everywhere in Orange County today is a mid to upper 70s. The beach is probably about 69 as an average, so nice out there, certainly pleasant. Big Bear 59 and Palm Springs 89. So just warm weather for warm February. For February weather continues, and it still feels like kind of early summer weather, but there again, at least probably for another week, this is the way it's going to be. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
The recently completed El Toro Water District Recycled Water Expansion Project has now delivered over 1 billion gallons of recycled water. The district is preparing to construct a second phase of the project that will install over 28,000 feet of new recycled water pipelines in the Gate 9 and Gates 5 and 6 areas of Laguna Woods Village. The pipeline construction will begin in early November and should be complete by June of next year. The district sincerely appreciates your patience as we enhance the water supply resources in the Laguna Woods area.
It's time to go back to the 50s with the one and only Pat Boone. Join us for a very special evening, Wednesday, February 14th in the Performing Arts Center. Hear your favorite hits like Ain't That a Shame and I Almost Lost My Mind. With 5 decades of recording history in the books, Pat Boone remains one of the top 10 recording artists of all time. Tickets are $18 and $25 at the box office. A very special evening with Pat Boone, Wednesday, February 14th, only in Laguna Woods Village.
Do you hear but not understand? I have good news for you. A proprietary system for verifying hearing correction, verified best speech clarity, is now available through the All-American Hearing Network. This means hearing improvement can now be verified and documented. Your individual hearing correction is guaranteed in writing. Call today to reserve your complimentary private consultation and experience word clarity dialed back into focus on the spot. Try AMP, the world's smallest hearing aid at an unbelievably small price, just $750. It's ready to go in one visit, comfortable to wear, and virtually invisible when worn. Yes, you can now have verified best speech clarity. Hear every word. Call today to reserve your complimentary private consultation and experience word clarity dialed back into focus on the spot, risk-free.
Individual care, specialized care. At Harvard Eye Associates, your vision and quality of life can be trusted to a group of specialists that provide advanced technology for the treatment of cataracts, including laser-assisted surgery, a broad range of intraocular lenses, and astigmatism correction. Come join the circle of care at Harvard Eye Associates, where the future of vision is today.
Well, with me right now is Steve Parsons. He is on the Third Mutual Board. In fact, he is the treasurer, so nice to see you here.
Good to see you, Ken.
And we're not going to talk about finances today. We're going to talk about, oh, you might bring up a little bit, but we're going to talk about several other things. And I mentioned that later on, if folks are watching us in the morning, the M&C meeting is coming up. Mm-hmm. And that's your first subject, things on the M&C committee today, right?
Right. Just before we get started, though, I'd like to mention about two important birthdays that took place this last week with two very special ladies. One is Juanita Skillman. She's the president of United Mutual, and Rosemary De Lorenzo, who's the president of Third Mutual. So they're two pretty special ladies, and wish them a great happy birthday. I hope they had a lot of fun. I know Rosemary did.
Very good. All right. Happy birthday to them. So the Gate 6 Recycled Water Project, and we've had El Toro Water District on a few times talking about this.
Okay, if you're new or you have not heard about it before, over near Gate 6, we're doing a recycled water project. And this is done through the El Toro Water District, and it's an $8.5 million project to convert about 85 million gallons of water per year to recycled water for irrigation. So that helps us by not taking it out of our drinking water supply. And I know a lot of you are a little concerned about it that are over there now because you may have traffic difficulties or difficulties getting around. So we are there with you. We understand that and realize that it will be done under construction by the end of June, and the whole thing should be operational by the end of December. So we want you to bear with us a little bit, and we know that you're there, and we'll try to make the traffic flow as smoothly as possible. The next thing I'd like to talk about is waistline remediation project. This is a project that, as many of you know, where we have a company, New Flow, that comes out and they go through the waste lines and actually interior lines now. And they rotor-rooter out the old crystallized infrastructure of a pipe, clean it out, hollow it out, and then they put an epoxy lining on the inside. And this project, the contract was signed. Ernesto Munoz was able to keep the contract at the same price as last year. And the work is going to be starting here this month in February. So we're looking forward to that. This is a big project for us. Each year it's about $780,000. And we're whipping through these things pretty quickly. Just to give you the magnitude of what we're looking at, in Third Mutual there's 1,405 residential buildings. And already to date, through actually in 2017, we did 128 buildings. They were completed. And to date, we've done 365 buildings. So as you can see, we still have a few to go, just a little less than 1,000.
Yeah.
But because of this, there's been a significant decrease in the number of main line stoppages. When they go in and rotor-root it out, of course, it makes more space. Things can flow through better, all like that. So we have a graph we're going to be talking about at the M&C meeting today that shows that. And we also anticipate starting this year a decrease in the number of interior line stoppages, which will help us immensely, even with leaks and things like that.
And a question on that. It was a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of the interior pipes were done, the inflow pipes, we would say.
Okay.
And that just proved to be a really good success. And I forget how many years ago it was, but at the time, people were first hearing about this epoxy coating. I remember hearing about it. I'd never heard of it before, and I guess it's just been, you know, a good success. And now these are primarily the waistlines that you're talking about.
Well, actually, last year, Ernesto Munoz, in charge of our maintenance construction area, actually started going in and they came up with a process of doing interior lines as well.
Okay.
So now we're not just doing the waistlines, we're doing the interior lines at the same time.
Nice, yeah.
And while we're there, it just makes sense to do it all, and then we don't have to worry about coming back, resetting and all like that.
Yeah, very good.
So there's a good cost savings there.
Yeah. And the Garden Villa Breezeway projects, I know not long ago, a week or so ago, I forget how long, but there was a presentation about that. So that is something that you're looking at, I guess, 3 sort of project buildings, test project buildings, right?
Correct. Yeah, for the main floor on Garden Villas, these, we're doing a test in 3 buildings. That's building 2384, 2385, 2386. And if you've ever been there, on the main level, we have recessed areas where now there's artificial turf. And we've had some problems with people falling down or tripping, things like that. So we're going to replace that with concrete, still keep the drainage the same. But then along the walls, we're experiencing dry rot. And so they're going to do both of these at the same time. So work on that is going to start here within 3 weeks. Plants will be moved to a special location that are out there. People will have their own little area after this. It's still considered common area, but they have usable space right in front of their door. So they can put out some of their own plants and some lawn furniture that's nice. They still feel like that they have their own little community there. So we're using these 3 buildings as a test to see how we want to proceed from then on.
And each one of these, if I'm not mistaken, will take about 5 weeks, something
From
like
beginning
that?
to end, yeah.
Yeah,
It depends on the
something like 5, 6
severity
weeks.
of the dry rot.
Okay.
Yeah, because right where the landing meets the walls, right there, they've got to cut all that out, go back into it, and then see what the damage is and repair all that. So that's the major part of this.
All right. Yeah,
So it's pretty extensive, or it can be pretty extensive.
All right, so now moving on to landscape. And this is something I know you folks talked about, the trash chute cleaning.
Right. We don't know, or we don't have records as to the last time the trash chutes were cleaned and repaired. So last year we looked at it and we said we have enough time between October and December to get a contract in place to start the cleaning. Well, by the end of this month or by the middle of next month, the cleaning will be done. So now we know what the repairs need to be handled on that, which could be a little extensive because you're dealing with metal and things like that, structures. So as soon as we get close to the end of doing the cleaning, then we'll let a contract. We've already gone out for bids, so that's going to be almost a turnkey operation from one to the other, from cleaning to repair. But people may hear a little hammering or whatever along the line, but it's going to be a lot better in the long run.
Okay, and these are how many buildings? All the 3-story buildings have these?
Yes, they'll be going through all of them to clean them.
Okay.
And so that'll be really good for Garden Villa Association folks.
Yeah.
And it'll also take care of some smell.
Yes, I was going to say, how long has it been since they've been cleaned?
We don't know.
Wow.
There's no records that we know of so far.
So that's something you're going to look at doing probably frequently.
Yeah, it'll be on a schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ernesto will be sure of that.
All right. Clubhouse entry signs are going to be going up at clubhouses 2 and 7 and gate 4, and going to be cleaning up some of the other signs as well.
Yeah, Bruce Hartley wanted us to advertise this so that people knew that we are on the sign campaign here to clean them up, put them where they need to be, and make them look better. So overall, we do have another program that's more extensive for building signs. And we've talked about that in the past. We're going to be talking about that again at M&C this afternoon. So if anybody wants to know about building signs, you're welcome to come in.
Okay, now we're going to talk about disaster preparedness, and I'm going to let you just kind of go down your talking points here, and then we're going to be showing you some maps, and the maps are basically where, if I'm not mistaken, where you currently have captains, right?
Correct. And in there we'll show areas where we don't have anybody.
Okay.
Or we have less density of captains, so we need more building captains and cul-de-sac captains.
Okay.
So
and here, just as an example, here in Gate 1, now,
Yeah.
of course, some of this is United,
Right,
but,
right.
And are you working with United
Oh,
on
yes.
this? So does
Yeah.
this indicate both United and Third, or just Third?
As we go through, it will probably.
Okay,
We'll have
okay.
overlap.
Okay.
But it's a joint village project under Chief Moy, Chief of Security. So as you can see here, we have a lot of streets, we have cul-de-sacs, we have buildings where we don't have building captains, and they're marked with the little blue
Right.
sign. So not to get people worried or anything, but we want to be prepared in case there's an emergency such as an earthquake. So we have building captains who are really our most important people out there on the ground. They know their neighbors, they can check on them. They also know people that might need medications or oxygen, things like that. And that's what we need to know immediately in the case of an emergency. So these people have a special vest they wear, so they're immediately recognizable. And then security, as they come around, and the Red Cross, if they're here, or FEMA, they'll be able to target right in on them and get valuable information, timely information.
Okay.
So we have about 100 building captains and cul-de-sac captains now. We need about 150 more. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do this, but it's well worth the rewards of helping somebody out and being prepared.
Right, right. So let's go through the areas here. Gate 1, this is, now, is it the blue where you do have captains?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see at Gate 1, there's there's a lot of areas that could probably use them here. As we move on to the next slide, Gates 5, I think for the right order, Gates 5 and 6. And again, there's a good view of where you have a lot of building captains, but areas that you don't.
Yeah, the area that's just gray or white, you can see it's a big area there where we don't have anyone. And I don't want this to be misleading because some of the building captains have volunteered to take 2 or 3 buildings until we can get somebody else.
Okay.
And in other situations, some building captains have assistants, not a whole lot of them, but some of them do. And they fan out to do things quicker. So if you remember during the October shakeout that we have every year, these building captains go around and check on everybody in their area and then come to their assigned clubhouse for reports. And that's what actually feeds back to Tim Moy in the Emergency Control Operations Center here.
Oh, okay.
So then that way they know how to dispatch security, they know how to dispatch medical staff and regular staff if it's during hours of operation here. And the Red Cross would be rolling in. We could get supplies and things like that from them and make distribution. So there's a lot of things that happen real quick.
Yeah. Let's look at the next map, 7 and 8, and Gate 7 and 8, I should say. And you can see here, you know, over in this area, they're pretty well spread out.
Right, they are. We have some places over here that may be a little hilly or things like that, but it's not too bad. And you know, there are a lot of captains there, and they do talk quite a bit between themselves. They're pretty neat people. Very responsive, too.
Now, Gate 9 and 10, again, in this area, there seems to be several captains, so this is pretty well, certainly down at the bottom, they're pretty well saturated.
Yeah, they're connecting pretty well, and we still have areas, though, that you can see in here where we need other people. When something happens, we'd like to be able to cover our whole area within about a half hour to 45 minutes.
Right.
That we know if there's fires, we know if there's people that need medical supplies, things like this. And that way the Emergency Operations Center can get up and working quicker.
Right, right. Gates 11, we'll look at the next one here, and this one too has pretty good. I mean, there's certain areas that could use some.
Now, Gate 11 is unique in that it doesn't have a clubhouse.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're augmenting Clubhouse 6, which I'm the coordinator for, by using RVs. And they've got people lined up to use RVs. They are currently making a list of supplies that they can pre-stock in them. So in an emergency, you'd have a rolling first aid group, so to speak. But so the building captains and cul-de-sac captains here can flag them down, and they can do things quickly. They can even transport them up to Clubhouse 6 or Clubhouse 5 as needed.
Okay, and then finally the Gate 14 area.
Gate 14 area, we need more people up there. It's kind of hilly, but the people are great people up there. We do have a good core of building captains that can train people quickly, and they can pick up their area and get to know their neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
All right, very
great.
good. So you wanted to hold up a form here, and we can show the folks, and tell us about what this form is.
okay, this form, I'm not sure where we're zooming in here.
You can hold it up to camera number 1 here.
Okay.
There we go.
This is a medical volunteer registry form.
Okay.
And what we're seeking with this is anybody who is a professional provider, doctor, nurse, something like that, but also people who have medical certificates and things, first aid, anything like this.
Okay.
We're seeking these people out because we would like to assign them certain locations that they could go to
Okay.
immediately and help out. I don't know if you know, but in clubhouses we have 3 distinctive areas set up. One is receiving, one is triage,
Okay.
another is a quiet zone area for people that may need time just to settle down and get a grasp on what the situation is, and with specialty people to help them out as counselors. So that's what we would like you to stop by and fill out.
Where would they pick this up?
You can get it at the disaster preparedness office downstairs.
Okay.
And if you can't come in to get a form, we'd like you to call 949-268-2356. Once again, 949-268-2356. And they'll take your name and number down and get you connected with the disaster preparedness task force.
Okay.
And with Chief
Yeah,
Moy
that's
in security who
very
runs
good.
this. So.
All right. And I know if you want to become a building captain, you can also call that same number.
Sure.
Or
sure.
go down to the office here. And you said you still need about 150. So
About 150 people.
all
Yeah.
right. Very
Yeah.
good.
A couple other
volunteer
things
you
if I
can.
could.
Yeah, please, please.
Okay, the South County Senior Summit is coming up in April. It's actually going to be held here on our campus in the Performing Arts Center, Clubhouse 3, on the 20th of April. And the emphasis this year that they're going to place throughout Orange County is on preparedness for emergencies. So Chief Moy is working with them a lot on the agenda and so forth like that, but it's going to have other topics as well. But that's going to be an emphasis there. So please mark your calendar so you can come to Performing Arts Center and be part of that. I did it once before and it ended up almost being standing room only.
Yeah.
So get there early.
Okay.
Another thing that Chief has been working on with the Orange County Task Force here for emergencies is how to handle animals and where to locate them in the case of an emergency. For instance, Loma Ridge is now designated to be a care shelter for horses. So in the event something happened, if the horses were not needed for some capacity, then they could be sent over there. People would take them, water them, exercise them, and things like that. There are other locations that are being determined for cats, dogs, things like that. So Chief has a plan for releasing that information as well as what you need to do to prepare for your animal so they can go and be cared for in the right way and have proper identification and things like that.
Yeah, and we certainly saw this in the state here, some of the fires that we had in areas where, especially for horses, and the problems that for a lot of people, just getting their horses and other livestock out, and you know, sadly, in many cases, they just couldn't. So that's good that we have got the plan.
Well, one last thing I'd like to mention here is we have a Good Neighbor and cul-de-sac captain training coming up on the 7th of this month.
Okay.
And that's at 1 o'clock in Clubhouse 7. So if you're at all interested in being a building block captain or cul-de-sac captain, or if you're a medical professional, come to that training.
Okay.
And I think you'll find it very rewarding and good connection.
Yeah, yes, check that out. Thank you, sir. Always
Okay,
good to
thank
see
you.
you. You take care, and we'll be right back.
I moved to Laguna Woods from North Carolina a year ago and realized that I needed to change my Medicare insurance plan. I was fortunate enough to learn about the services provided by Susie and Richard White Insurance. They were wonderful.
There's no need to wait for an open enrollment for your new Medicare plan.
We are here all year long and would love to meet with you and make your Medicare transition in your new hometown easy.
Dr. Christine Chung with 7-Day Dental has served Laguna Woods for 17 years. Her office is close, her staff is the best, and she offers great discounts for Laguna Woods.
I have been a patient of Dr. Christine Chung at 7-Day Dental for 15 years. She and her staff are exceptional.
You may know me from Village Television. I would not go anywhere else for dental care than 7-Day Dental.
7-Day Dental, simply your best choice.
Looking for a change of scenery? You don't have to play golf to enjoy all that 19 Restaurant and Lounge has to offer. From a delicious breakfast menu to our delectable lunch and dinner specials. At 19 Restaurant and Lounge, there is something for everyone. Relax with your friends and family and take in the beautiful view from our spacious patio. Or enjoy a cocktail and appetizer in our lounge. 19 Restaurant and Lounge is a great place to socialize, enjoy a meal, or simply take in the view. Join us 7 days a week and experience Laguna Woods' exclusive dining experience.
At BreastLink Laguna Hills, we understand the anxiety that comes along with healthcare. That's why we provide breast-dedicated specialists in imaging, surgery, and oncology. We have one center, one team, with one focus, you. Studies have shown that cancer patient outcomes are better when treated by dedicated specialists. This makes a difference for women who want timely, concise, and accurate answers. BreastLink delivers the care you deserve with the quality you expect. Whether you need us now or later, we're always here.
That's my pleasure.
Well, with me right now is the Orange County District Attorney, Tony Rakakis. Sir, nice to have you here today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
And we should also say incumbent running for the same office. And you've been in the office for how long? About 12 years?
Oh, 19.
19. Oh, wow.
Right. 2018 was my 20th year.
Wow.
And, right. And I'm running, so I'll be running for my 6th term. I'm in my 5th term right now.
Very good. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
Let's talk about just in general some of the issues around Orange County. And I know one of the things you wanted to touch on that maybe people don't think that's really around here too much, but it is human trafficking.
Right.
And of course, that's been an issue. I was surprised to learn that, especially where the Super Bowl was, that it actually goes up in those areas.
Of
course, they were talking about that
does,
on the national news.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Whenever there's a big event, or you know, places where there's a lot of entertainment type activity and that sort of thing, there's more of it. You know, we've always thought in the past, we've always thought of prostitution as just that, you know, like women going out making, you know, trying to make money, making money selling their body and that sort of thing. But it's much different than that, especially in this last few years. This is, it's really become very much a form of slavery. Kidnapped kids, girls being taken. The average time when they start, 12 to 15 years old. They're taken off the street, or they're taken from if they're runaways or what they call throwaways, because which is an amazing term to me, but basically a runaway that nobody cares if they come back. Yeah, those are referred to as throwaways. These people, they pick those girls up, and you know, with beginning to like offering them a home and a meal and that sort of thing, and then they go from there. They take them over. They beat them and torture them and require them to do anything that they demand, and they make money with them. They just consider them to be property. They buy them and sell them. They brand them. It's really a terrible thing.
Wow. And have you, in your years that you've been in the position that you're in, have you seen this escalate? And particularly, you know, as you just mentioned, it used to be thought of around the entertainment areas, and it was not uncommon in the Garden Grove, Anaheim, Disneyland area. That goes back for decades. But do you see this more widespread now?
It's very widespread. It's pretty much everywhere. It's in all of our cities, and you know, it's run by people who are just basically trying to figure out where the best market is for their product, and they consider these women, they just consider them to be products. Right. And so it's you know, we put together a task force. We have a task force in Orange County, and I put a unit together in my office where we started with a couple of attorneys. We have 6 attorneys and several investigators now, and paralegals, and we put I think we put 250 or so of these slave owner pimp guys in prison, and you know, and there's still a lot more out there.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. But they are starting to talk to each other and saying to stay out of Orange County because we're not fair to the pimps in Orange County.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
Good.
It's almost like
yeah.
music to your ears. But then again, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like I don't wish it on other places either.
Right. Another big issue in Orange County, really, let's face it, throughout LA and Orange County, and probably in San Diego as well, is of course the homeless issue.
Yes.
And as obviously you're aware of, a lot of it along the Santa Ana River area, other areas as well, downtown Santa Ana. And you know, it's a problem that there's not an easy solution. As you know, there's been an effort by Anaheim and Santa Ana to remove the homeless, and yet there's now, I don't know if it's gone through yet, a possible court injunction of or a stay. There's not an easy answer, is there?
Right. There's a federal court order.
Right.
I suppose I don't know if it's termed an injunction or not, but it's a court order that the judge, federal court Judge Carter, made certain requirements before people could be removed from the river. I think all those requirements have been met.
Okay.
And that's why people are being pushed out of there now. And the things that they're finding are incredible. Just the mess.
Right.
You know, the mess, the needles, the human waste, the weapons, all that sort of thing. It's just it's incredible. When you have a situation like that, where they have like their own town, it's a lawless situation, and you know, so a lot of bad things happen there. So I think we need to get rid of that, not just because of the eyesore, but it's just for public safety.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, there are certain people that are there that do want help, and there are others that are just have a lifestyle, or that, you know, that's a lot of mental illness, of course, and they're much harder to help.
Well, you know, it's very difficult to get help to those people who don't want it.
Right.
Our healthcare agency has been working hard to be open to provide services, and they do provide services for all the people who will avail themselves of those services, but it's a difficult situation, you know.
Yeah.
With it's complex. You know, it's not really made up much. There's some, but it's not really made up of people who had a job and then a couple of years ago lost their job and now they're down and out. That's not the picture over there. What we're dealing with is a lot of drug users and you know, under Prop 47.
Right.
We've lost we don't have any teeth in the drug laws, and so people are not required to get treatment, so they don't go to treatment. They rather just use drugs, and they're out there homeless. They can't work, and then other people who have mental problems and really don't know what the heck they're doing, but they rather be outside than inside, and there they are. So it's just a big mess.
Let me touch on that Proposition 47. That in many ways, I think there are even some people up in Sacramento have looked at this and said, you know, maybe this wasn't such a great idea, because, as you know, a lot of people are being released from prison, which they try and say are nonviolent criminals, but in many cases there's still people who have burglarized homes or selling drugs or something like that. The difficulty of your office to prosecute these people, maybe when they redo a crime and they just almost a revolving door, right?
Oh yeah, that's where I think you know, I think we're trying to stay out of the game with our DNA abilities. We've developed the best ability to do DNA analysis and investigations than any place, maybe except, you know, unless you go to England. But we do it the best here. So I think, you know, that's helping us to keep up. But look, we've got the realignment, Prop 57, Prop 47, And so as a result, we have people being released from prison.
Right.
A lot of people being released. Other people we can't put in prison because you can no longer send people to prison for those crimes. And then lots and lots of people, thousands, where the kinds of crimes that they commit were reduced to misdemeanors. So use and possession of narcotics and theft and all kinds of crimes are reduced to misdemeanors. And so it's creating a real problem. We're working with it. I'm in a group of district attorneys which has put forth an initiative now to try to turn back some of those Prop 47 things, particularly the petty theft, and to require continued taking of DNA samples from people who commit those crimes, although they're not felonies anymore, and a number of provisions that it won't turn back the clock on it entirely, but just try to get some of those things that are really problematic.
Yeah, and I know just in the area that I live, up in the foothills, up in Rancho Santa Margarita, and really in and around this whole area, there has been what seems to be a tremendous increase in petty theft, burglaries, and that sort of thing, and a lot of it's been attributed to this.
Well, see, because we no longer have the ability to charge somebody with a felony for repeated theft. So in the past, if somebody committed a petty theft with a prior, you could charge a felony, so a police officer could come out and make an arrest in those kind of cases. Now, it's just a straight misdemeanor no matter how many times you steal something. So if it's under $950 in value. So the police, once a person is identified as having committed a theft, all they can do is write them a citation. And so there's no arrest. They just put it in their pocket with their other citations, and so there's very little consequence. And so as a result, there's more small thefts.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It is, and that's one of the things we're trying to turn back. And I think it'll work. I think that when people hear it, when they understand, kind of how far away they've gone with Prop 47. They want to go, wait a minute, we need to cut that back a bit.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've even heard that some of the lawmakers up in the state who felt this was a good idea are now looking back on.
That's right. Why? Because you can, I mean, I don't know why they thought it would be a good idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are again, another election time coming up soon. I guess it's really considered the primary first, but why are you running again? What is it that you feel that you can continue to contribute?
Well, there's a lot of things that we do really well in the DA's office, and those are programs largely that I've started and am working on and helping them to mature. Like I told you about our DNA programs, our anti-gang program, called GRIP, Gang Reduction Intervention Partnership, where we work with kids from the 4th to the 8th grade, and the human trafficking unit, things like that. I feel a strong need to continue to work on those programs, to guide them, to develop them, and try to find somebody, pretty soon after the election, who would be able to take over that job.
All right. Now, your opponent has brought up your primary opponent, who most people know is Todd Spitzer. As you mentioned, there might be a couple others that we don't know of yet. A couple of things that he has brought up are some sexual harassment charges, not against Mr. Rakakis here, but within the DA's office and a sitting judge, I believe, as well. You want to talk about that and your take on that?
Sure. It was taking me a minute to think about the sitting judge.
Yeah, it is. I'm
Judge
trying
Steiner?
to think. Judge Steiner. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it's easy to make a lot of accusations. We've had an issue come up in the investigative bureau of the DA's office, and as soon as we got word of it, I had the whole thing investigated, and when we determined that there was something there that had to be handled, we handled it right away. We didn't find any wrongdoing in terms of sexual harassment, actually, but what we did find was a kind of a kind of a party attitude on the part of some of the leadership, and so we changed that out. So those people are gone. It's a much it's a very professional atmosphere, and it's working really well. So that's done. As far as Judge Steiner is concerned, I don't know if you recall, but a few years ago he was alleged to have
yes, I do.
he was alleged to have raped somebody in his chambers, and no, that didn't turn out to be true. And you know, the young lady who was supposed to be the victim changed that and talked about what did happen, and she was trying to get a job or something like that. I can't remember exactly those circumstances. But Judge Steiner was apparently did have some kind of liaison in the courthouse in his chambers, and he was very, very remorseful about that, and he's a good judge. And so, frankly, I mean, I supported him as one who's a good judge.
Okay.
You know, and I think by all accounts, he's doing a great job.
All right. How's your office in general been handling I guess for lack of better term, a lot of these jailhouse informant cases that have resulted in some overturning of some prosecutions and all? And
so you know, first understand that the jailhouse informants are something that have always been there. I mean, you know, I've had
goes back to colonial days.
I think it goes. I think it goes back to Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, whenever there were two cells, there was one guy that wanted to give.
So that part's not
the
uncommon.
Other.
Yeah.
So you know, people are, you know, who are in custody are constantly offering us information, that sort of thing. And so if a person's in custody, he's charged with an offense, and there's somebody in the jail who's acting on our behalf as an agent of the prosecution, then that person cannot ask the person in custody any questions. So to begin with, understand there's no question of was anybody's, you know, were there any involuntary statements? Was there any innocent people? None of that. We're just talking about some gang members who were, you know, who did crimes against other gang members primarily, and there were some informants where there were probably 3, maybe 4 technical violations, and so that's what the whole thing is about. The media liked the story and ran with it and did a lot with it. We worked in our office to make sure that prior to any informant being used in a case, there would be processes to make sure that there were no violations. So we're not involved in a case where somebody's rights have been violated.
Okay. One last question. Do you anticipate any debates coming up between you and your opponent?
Well, I don't see any.
Okay.
I can't.
All right.
I can't see the need for it. But,
all right.
You know,
all right. Just wondering. People like debates, and I didn't know if there were any plan. I heard maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. So, wanted to get your take on it.
I'm certainly open to make appearances and talk about the office and talk about the things we do and answer the kind of questions like you're just right now bringing up that, you know, that are the things that my opponent wants to bring up.
All right. So, very good. Well, folks, as you know, the election's coming up in June, and you know, more than anything, look at the issues and decide for yourself and vote. And also, if you want to stay more informed, your website is it ocdistrictattorney.com? Am I right for your campaign website?
If you put that in, you'll be right there.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. All right. Mr. District Attorney, thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
You take care,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be right back. We'll get John hooked.
Oh, okay.
The Laguna Hills Lodge is very proud to have been awarded the TripAdvisor Award of Excellence for the last 5 years. Discover this family-friendly boutique hotel and enjoy our crystal clear pool and spa, beautiful gardens, and convenient location. Our designer upgraded rooms feature luxury comforts of much higher-priced hotel chains and include free continental breakfast, parking, Wi-Fi, and more. We match the lowest price you can find online. Ask about our Laguna Woods special offer.
Hi, we're here to talk further about our 40 Not 50 program. As you probably remember, new guidelines from our government task force are saying women should start screening mammograms at age 50. We know it's wrong. We know this is going to lead to needless delays in diagnosis and probably deaths in many cases. We can't afford to let this happen. To prove how important it is to get the mammogram early, we have a guest, Tanya, who's going to talk about her story and the importance of early detection and detecting cancer when they're still curable. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, John.
Well, I know you're kind of our poster child for early detection, but why don't you tell us your story? Just repeat it again. How did...
Well, I had a baseline mammogram when I was 38, and that was back in the day when they recommended you get baseline mammograms between 35 and 40. Started the annual mammogram at 40 and was diagnosed with breast cancer as a result of the mammogram.
So you were asymptomatic?
Yep.
You just came in. Now, do you have a strong family history?
No family history, and I come from a very large family. And so I really didn't personalize the risk of breast cancer. You know, we've got diabetes in our family, and I was very alert to that, but not breast cancer. I was completely shocked.
So when they saw the calcifications when you were 38, they said you were too young, you don't have a family history.
That's
but,
right.
And at that time, they could have biopsied it, because I know I looked at the films, and it was a small cancer. We could have got by with minimal treatment, and now you had chemo, didn't you? So that probably could have been avoided. But so there's two lessons that we have. One is that young women get breast cancer and they can progress. If we catch them early and treat them well, we save lives.
That's right.
And not having a family history, being young, is not an issue. So you know that the government's now saying, this task force, is women don't need to start until they're 50. What do you think about that?
I think that's crazy. If those guidelines were in place when I was 38, 40, I'd be dead by now, because I didn't think breast cancer was a risk for me. No family history, and I didn't know that 85% of the women who get breast cancer have no family history.
Yeah.
But as a layperson out there, you just
don't know.
You don't know that really.
Right.
And so again, if that guideline was in place, I'd be dead. And you know, I have 3 kids, and when I was diagnosed, I was 40, and I was diagnosed on my twin boys' 6th birthday. And and we also at the time our 7-year-old daughter. So, you know, that it scares me to think that that might happen.
This is the thing. Half of the deaths from breast cancer occur in women diagnosed when they're younger than 50. So breast cancer is really a disease of young women. When we start at 50, we're going to miss half of those cancers. Now, these cancers aren't going away. It's just later diagnosis means the prognosis is not as good, the treatment's more aggressive, and more people are going to die needlessly. It's particularly bothersome when we realize that the data that this task force uses is completely flawed. It's based on a study from Canada that suggests 22% of cancers will just disappear spontaneously. It's because the study wasn't designed properly. There's not been a single case ever of a cancer disappearing. So I think the government is probably looking for cost containment.
Oh, yes.
It's not about saving life, but how can you possibly throw 40-year-olds under the bus? It makes no sense. That's the group we should be focusing on. If anything, let us older people like me get less aggressive treatment, save the money, but concentrate on the mothers, the young women. They have their whole life ahead of them. And to deny them the one test that can save their life is preposterous.
It really is. I mean, again, as a layperson, I look at that and say it's all money driven as a result of insurance changes. And I think you're doing a great job to get awareness out there, because we have to stop this ship from moving forward.
Well, this is what the 40 Not 50 is about. We need to get a groundswell of support from the community. We need to get leaders in the community to back us up. We need to get a groundswell of women signing our petitions, but we can't let this happen. We've got to fight back. The 40 Not 50 program is an approach whose mission is to make sure that every woman in the USA has the opportunity to start screening at age 40.
Absolutely.
And I think we can do it, but we need your support. We need you to tell your friends, get involved, go on our website and learn more about this issue. This is an opportunity to us to get together for a common problem and unite and go to the government, go to the insurance companies, say these recommendations are ludicrous. They're intolerable. We're not going to let you throw women under 50 under the bus. Now is the time to fight back. What do you think?
Absolutely, sign me up.
Okay, Tanya's ready to go. I'm ready to go. I hope you're ready to go.
Did you know you can get up to 11% on your money? That's right, 11%. And your investment will be secured by real estate. Would you like to receive a check each month? Would you like to earn up to 11% secured? Would you like consistent returns knowing each month what to expect in your mailbox? Well, American Mortgage Fund is now offering up to 11%, paid monthly. 11% secured by real estate with American Mortgage Fund. It's a great way to earn high monthly returns. Call 1-800-359-1111.
Well, our movie today is a very different kind of animated movie. It's called Loving Vincent, and it's a story that is all depicted in oil painting animation. This has never been done before, and it's about a young man who comes across the last hometown of Vincent van Gogh to deliver the troubled artist's final letter. It was supposed to go on to his brother, who actually passed away a few months later. But he ends up investigating the final days of Vincent van Gogh's life there. And as I said, a very different kind of movie, all done in oil paintings. They used over 65,000 paintings to do this over a course of 4 years to make this film. It's very different. I think it's up as one of the best animated features Academy Award, and we're going to bring it to you today. Now, this does not have subtitles. On the DVD that we got, there are no subtitles available, so both the 2 and 6 o'clock showing will be without subtitles. Our movie coming up then on Friday is called Marshall, and it is the story of the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, and about his life as he started out his career and as he moved forward to, of course, become on the Supreme Court. Really incredible story. Chadwick Boseman plays Thurgood Marshall. Josh Gad is in this. Kate Hudson, Dan Stevens, really even James Cromwell, an incredible cast that is in this movie. And I think you'll really enjoy it, of course, based on the life of Thurgood Marshall. So kind of a biopic in a way, and very well acted. So this will be our Friday movie coming up on the 9th at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Fridays. Now, other movies coming up on Mondays, we have Lucky Logan, which is a comedy based on a heist at a NASCAR race. We also have Witness, if you remember that movie back from the mid-1980s with Harrison Ford, very young Harrison Ford. He plays an investigator that comes into the Amish country to investigate a murder. And Only the Brave, the true story of Granite Mountain Hot Shots, which are a group of elite firefighters. Then our Friday movies coming up, we have Blade Runner 2049. Remember the original that came out back in the 80s? This, once again, stars Harrison Ford, and it takes place in the year 2049. And then we have a comedy movie based on a very famous play. The movie is called The Birdcage, and if you remember that, that came out back in the 90s. Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, and Gene Hackman. That was a really fun movie. And Callista Flockhart was in that as well. You may not know that name, but she went on to the show Ally McBeal. But when she did this movie, she was pretty much unknown. So that will be on the last movie on Friday on this month of February. So good movies coming your way. Hey, I want to remind you, you've seen that we've had some folks on from Alzheimer's Orange County and the Alzheimer's OC Club right here in Laguna Woods Village. Their next meeting is coming up Monday, February 12th. And In this class, they'll be trained for those people who want to go in memory, reasoning, attention, concentration. They always have either a good speaker or a good topic going on. So if you'd like to go to this, it's at 10 o'clock coming up on Monday, February 12th. No cost to attend. They do prefer if you can RSVP. The number is 949-757-3721. Alzheimer's Orange County Club right here in Laguna Woods Village, and that will be at Clubhouse 3, Performing Arts Center, in room 2. And as you probably saw the ad, get your tickets are still available to see on Valentine's Day Pat Boone at the Performing Arts Center. Tickets are $25 and $18. Just go by the Performing Arts Center to get your tickets. And where else can you see Pat Boone, a legend, for just $25 or $18? Not bad at all right here. Okay, not bad at all is our weather, although I think we would prefer some rain by now. But there's none in the forecast coming up, at least for another week, week and a half for sure. We're going to remain right in this above normal temperatures, anywhere from the mid-70s to maybe touching 80 degrees or so coming up. And the overnights are staying the same in the low to mid-50s. The only difference is we're going to have some of that marine layer kind of ebb and flow on certain days. That's going to be about it. But otherwise, again, our temperatures around this time of year, you know, we should be in the mid-60s at most. So we're way above normal. And looking even into next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the temperatures are going to be about the same, mid-70s, kind of like what they are today. So have a good day. We will see you tomorrow. We're going to have Tony Barriott here from the Hearing Well Club. Active Care will be here. And then we're going to have a couple guests from the African American Heritage Club that's having an event coming up. We'll see you then.